Okay, good evening, everyone. We will begin this meeting of the subcommittee for annual updates on the zoning regulations. We are meeting here via Zoom. And yeah, it's been so long since we've done this. Do we usually do a roll call on this?
We do the roll call because it's pretty much the only thing that on Zoom you have a way of verifying which commissioners are there for the minutes.
Great. Okay, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for reminding me.
Believe me, we're all going to have to get back in the swing of this one, I'm sure.
Mr. Santos.
Present, yes.
Mr. Krogel.
Present.
Mr. Hill.
Alvin Hill, present.
Ms. Salsi.
I am present.
And Mr. St. Ange.
Present.
And I am here as well.
And I will call out any other members as they come in.
Thank you. And of course, Cindy and Tira are here with us as well.
All right, so let me share screen on the document. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Nice. Yep.
This window. Why do I have that window? Okay, so in the past, I'm gonna move these windows around a little bit. In the past, I believe what we have done and has worked well for us is, I'll just read it out as we go. How can I stop it? Here we go. Read it out as we go, item by item. We can discuss where discussion is needed. I will continue to make, I'll make comments either directly into the text if we have specific text changes to what we're looking at, or if it's general comments, I'll put them in sidebar, and that will serve as the minutes as well. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. And I spent some time today. This should be pretty much in order of the way they would appear in the regulations. There may be a couple things here and there that are a little wonky, but for the purposes of this, it's pretty good. But if anybody is following along in the hard copy book, just to keep pace, if any questions come up about surrounding text, that would be good. Okay, Chapter 275, Article 3, Section 8, Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals shall have all the powers and duties delegated to it by CGS 8.5 to 8.10, including hearing appeals regarding the enforcement of these regulations, the review and approval of requests for variances, and certificate of approval for the location of any motor vehicle dealership, new and used, auto repair, and the sale of gasoline products pursuant to CGS 14 to 54 and 14 to 321. Cindy, that is the actual edit you wanted, correct? Cindy, see, you're on mute, Cindy.
And
Okay.
and Tira, I
Yes.
see Mr. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, that's how the wording that I want that is in the statutes. Yes, certificate of approval for the location.
And I see Mr. Poplawski has joined.
Thank you. Okay, and any objections to accepting this change as suggested by the ZEO? It's just matching the statutory language.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Accept this change. Look at that, we got something done already. Okay, moving on, Article 5, special permits, and this is a general comment on the section from Cindy. Do we have anywhere in our regulations a date set to complete a special permit? And Cindy, I'm not sure that I'm actually answering the question that you asked, which is exactly what I have here.
The general statute takes care of that.
Well, do you know what statute it is? Because I really didn't have time to look. I was looking a little bit before the meeting started, but I couldn't find it. Do do you know what statute it is, or if you can just email it to me so I know, because, you know, I've been there 5.5 years. I need to check and see if these special permits have been completed. So,
So is the note here just to double check the applicable statute and cite it?
I believe that we should cite it, yes, in our regulations, yes.
All right, so so we're adding that comment. Okay. Any other comment on that? None. I shall proceed. I stuck this general comment from Mike under general provisions.
Just real quick, I think it's Connecticut statute 29-263.
Correct.
And it says requires the building official issue or refuse a permit within 30 days after the date of application. But you can double check me on that.
That's building permit.
That's what that is? Okay.
That's not zoning.
Okay. I'll
right.
continue to look. Thank you. Thought I'd
All
help
right.
and I did not do that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take that out here then.
Yeah.
Okay. And I will also look within the next few days at the office, whichever one of us beats the other to it. Okay, so moving on, I had a few sort of very general comments that Mike sent in, most of which weren't tied to a specific item. So I just kind of plunked them in where I thought they were most applicable. So in general, we're looking at chapter 275, article 6-4, section 4, general provisions for all zoning districts. And Mike asked the question, what are the regulations for tiny homes? To which my response, as you can see, but for the record, I'll read it. There are no specific regulations for tiny homes. They are unnecessary because if it is built on a slab or other foundation, it's just a house. And we very intentionally removed any references for minimum floor area as long as it meets building codes, which is of course not the jurisdiction of
I
zoning.
think what Mike might be talking about is there's a lot of people are trying to build homes in trees.
No, we're not talking about my treehouse.
No, I didn't think that's what he was talking about either, although it's an interesting
That is,
sort of
yes.
hypothetical, but so you can tell me, Mike, did you just mean small homes or did you mean the things that
I'm talking
call
the-
tiny homes that are on wheels?
So tiny homes that are probably on wheels, because anything that's not a foundation and slab, I understand is stationary and it's a house. So I'm talking more along the lines of a tiny home on wheels that pass all building codes. So are they actually trailers or are they
Mobile homes,
Or-
mobile homes.
Correct, and we treat mobile homes essentially as a prohibited use as opposed to modular homes. Now, Cindy asked me a related question, and I think we were both satisfied that if it just comes in on a trailer and then gets anchored to a permanent foundation,
That's
that we
correct.
consider that to be a home.
So would I,
Delivery and removal.
yeah, I'm talking about actually living in these things. I don't care if they come on a railroad truck, a railroad box car, you know. I'm talking about actually physical on the property regulations that if they're on wheels, you consider them to be a trailer.
Right, so
Okay,
again, I would
like I
say
said.
that, oh, so Poplawski, by the way, is coming in now, so this, David, must be a different date.
No, that was me too. I had to wait for my computer to update and everything else. I'm listening on both.
Oh, okay, all right, very good. Yeah, so we will address trailers shortly because you did have a separate question, but for the purposes of this, if it is anchored to the ground permanently on a slab or other form of foundation, then doesn't need special regulations. We treat it like any other home on wheels. We treat it like a trailer or a mobile home, and that would be as applicable under those regulations. So we'll talk about the rest of that topic later, if that's okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. So this in subsection A, number 4, for accessory dwelling units, Cindy has requested the addition of this text. I'll read the whole thing again for the record. An ADU is subject to all applicable Northeast District Department of Health, NDDH, standards for private wells and septic, where public water and sewage facilities, I think that's technically supposed to be sewerage, facilities are not available. An ADU may share a septic system with NDDH approval and electrical service with the primary dwelling, or it may have separate septic and electrical service. Again, it's just this with NDDH approval. Cindy has asked as sort of reinforcing that it must meet NDDH standards. Any objection to accepting that change as proposed?
None.
Looks fine.
Looks fine.
Yep. Looks good.
I love the easy ones. It helps us get our mojo on. All right, so this one may require a little discussion. Part of it is actually my fault because when I first sent it, I do think it was slightly different text. This is now correct as to what I intended. So again, we are in general provisions for all zoning districts, interior lots, and this would be a brand new provision.
Are we
So-
jumping ahead with accessory dwelling? What the heck?
No, this isn't under accessory dwelling units. This is under interior lots, Alvin. It would become a new number 6 under interior lots. In districts which are intended for primarily residential uses, CRD, LD, RRAD, TCVD, only uses allowed under the zoning permit simple level of review on the table of uses for the given district shall be permitted for interior lots. No such limitations apply to proposed commercial or mixed-use interior lots in the BDD, DMRD, and/or TCDD. So I'll read Cindy's comment first, which is that she read it a bunch of times and didn't understand the purpose of the addition. I will say that I believe that at least partly that was because I did a cut and paste out of the subdivision regulations, and that originally still referred to subdivision, which would have no place in the zoning regulations. And I feel like that probably did not help clarify the intent. But beyond that, the reason that I put this in here, and Ray Williams is entering at 7:13, that's for the record, that this suggestion was something that I came up with following the Rachel Drive application, because that application seemed to represent an unintended consequence of the regulations that were otherwise behaving as intended, in a way that would sort of prevent intensification of use in interior lots without disrupting the purpose of why we moved the lot sizes down. So the rationale behind that is that the language is consistent with that provision, which already exists in the subdivision regulations, which we updated. So it has consistent logic across both documents. Cindy and I do not agree on this, you should know. And she has comments that are later in this draft, which are her suggestions here. Before we get to that, I will say that I object strenuously to Cindy's proposed change to address that kind of situation, but this is my suggestion. So I will open this up for questions, comments, and conversation.
Hey, I gotta leave the meeting because I can't get a full picture. I don't know what I did with my computer. So I'm gonna leave and join back on, okay?
Okay, yep.
All right.
Tira,
Yes, Alvin.
under definition in our zoning regulations, we have zoning permit. Why not put zoning permit simple below that with your definition?
I can certainly do that, and I'll make a note here in sidebar. I think that is separate from what we are considering here, but let me just add the comment so we don't lose it.
Section 275, 2.4 definitions.
Yeah. Okay.
The word, that definition of simple is not even in the subdivision regulations.
Yeah, and that's just to indicate that it's just a zoning permit that the ZEO issues without having to come to the commission.
Exactly.
So in other words, what this, and she's coming back in. So in other words, what this provision is suggesting in interior lots is that uses on interior lots in primarily residential districts shall be only those things that Cindy herself can sign off on without coming to the commission. So essentially that's single families and duplexes, home occupations, farm stands and agriculture, I think is what those uses are for almost all districts.
Are we still on interior lots?
Yes.
In districts which are intended for primary residence, only uses on permit simple. None of that makes any sense at all. Maybe it's me. Do you guys understand what this is trying to say? Does any of the members understand what this is trying to say?
I do, yes.
And-
And Tira,
and so
Tira,
tell me.
can you tell me what section this is in again? Where number
So-
6 to be inputted?
So this would be, so it doesn't exist now. This is suggested new language. It would
Yeah, I know.
be in
general
chapter
provision.
275, Article 6, Section 4, subsection B, and then it would be the new number 6. Where it does currently exist is in the subdivision regulations, and I would be lying if I told you exactly where without looking. And that was something that was discussed during that update project to try
I
to
got it. Okay.
make sure that in brand new subdivisions, essentially you didn't have people driving behind a bunch of houses to businesses and things like that. In the primarily residential districts.
Brian, so tell me what it means. If you understand it, tell me what it means.
So
As a-
this is basically
Okay.
it's saying to you that if you need a special permit, such as a multifamily housing, it would not be allowed because you are specifically referencing it only applies to a zoning permit simple.
And Brian, in
Ah.
addition, it would
Ah.
also include, right, there are 3 levels of review. The zoning permit simple, zoning permit with planning and zoning commission approval, or special permit, right? So this would only allow that first category.
The first category. Yep.
So what is it allowing? I've
It's
got
allowing single-family homes and duplexes, home occupations, and, homestead agriculture, essentially.
to get home occupations out of that because anybody can have a home occupation. So that isn't even that.
So that's right, home occupations are permitted.
Right.
In other words, anything that you could sign off on without coming to the commission is an allowable use in an interior lot in the common residential district, Lake District, RRAD, and TCVD. so that, for example, we'll go back to the particular application that was so contentious that prompted this. If that application for a fourplex on Rachel Drive in an interior lot had come to you with this provision in place, it would have been a boot, go no further, because that would have been a special permit use. Therefore, it is not permitted on an interior lot in the common residential district. We would never have gotten to that public hearing point.
Never would happen.
I'm still not getting it. I'm sorry. I've got to be very thick. I'm sorry. I so what are you telling me, that I don't have to require a 50-foot frontage?
No, nothing about the interior lot requirements dimensionally changes. This is only addressing the uses that are permitted on a given interior lot in any of those 4 districts. Right, because that was the big to-do, right? This is
No.
this is a neighborhood that has a certain form and function, and the neighbors believed that a fourplex in that
Okay,
neighborhood
all right.
would be too intensive.
Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it now. All
Yeah,
right,
she's
I'm
only,
good.
so if can visualize the chart, Cindy,
Yeah, I do. I am.
It-
That's exactly what I'm doing. Okay.
it's just the first column that would be allowed.
But they still have to follow all the other regulations, setbacks, blah, 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 and, frontage and all this stuff, right?
Correct. This isn't
Okay.
taking away anything that's
Okay.
already required for an interior lot. It's saying this is an additional limitation on those interior lots.
Okay. Okay. All right. It's taken me I started last night on this one, reviewing all this stuff, and I'm going, I don't get this.
Well,
Today I
like,
read it, still get it. Okay.
yeah, like I said, when I first sent it over, I had inadvertently not changed the language from where it was in subdivision. So that would have been confusing.
Okay. All right. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
There was a message from Jane about Ray can't.
I'm just looking at it now. Let me see if I can take him off mute. Sometimes I can. No, it just says ask to unmute.
I might have to just call in.
Yeah, okay, he's having trouble. He can hear us, but he cannot say anything or respond to anything. And he's thinking that John can't do it either. And Alvin, you said you had problems tonight too, right?
Yes, it took me some time 35 minutes, almost 40 minutes to get on Zoom.
Holy crap.
Well, that sounds like a system update, but
Yeah, system update.
Ray, you're off mute now.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
were off mute and you couldn't respond. Try to
He
respond to. Ray, are you, if you're on a keyboard rather than your phone, type into the chat so we know you're there.
While Ray is doing that, should I just bring up my new comment later if it actually pertains to like another item after this one that's related to this?
We're trying to go in order.
Yep. I'll wait.
Okay. So, and let me just sort of try to address Ray as best I can here. So, what I would suggest, Ray, because, we don't make any quote unquote votes and decisions in these subcommittee, is if you want to keep a list of any comments that you have that come up from this, if we can't actually get you to be able to participate directly in discussion, send them to me and I'll get them into these comments, because this isn't going to be final here.
So this is interesting. He can't get this volume to work. It says there's 10 participants. I only see 4, and I don't have, any, like I'm not even on the board here. So, I don't get that. I can usually, scroll down and see all the, let me
Cindy,
see.
There's 10 participants. I just counted.
Cindy, there's a
What?
setting that sometimes if you're hiding non-video participants, then you
Okay.
would only be able to see Dave, Mike,
Okay.
Alvin.
Yeah, well, this is the first time that's happened because I, do non-video all the time. So a lot of times, and I see it, see everybody, but that's okay. I don't care. as long as I can hear you. I
Okay,
just
so.
I just thought I'd tell you, maybe it's associated to what's going on with Ray.
I think a bunch of people had system updates because we haven't done a Zoom only in a while. We'll get
Okay.
through it. So while we're on this section, are we generally comfortable with this provision for interior lots?
Yes.
Yes, I agree.
And that's just for the interior lots. I kind of missed some of the conversation because I was going back and forth with Ray.
Right. Yes, this is only addressing interior lots.
Okay.
So if I'm hearing this right, you are restricting the interior lots to what the regulation zoning is for the area. But see now, as in Rachel Drive, all those units, granted, everyone buys a house hoping to have peace and quiet. And I'm not saying I'm in favor of a 4-unit over there. But what I am saying is, if the zoning allows it, we are stopping somebody from using their property to the highest and best use.
Well, doesn't that, okay, so we've 4,500 square feet for a single unit, correct?
It's
Yep.
the zoning is 4,500 square foot minimum lots. Cindy has made some suggestions about per unit, which we will address in order because that does come up later.
Okay, because yeah, but if
That
it's
is a separate suggested solution for the Rachel Drive property. And this is an area where Cindy and I disagree strenuously. But let's start with, because we're going in order, this is the simpler solution. If we have some consensus that this may be favorable, we may ultimately have to go back and decide between the two. But if this seems favorable, we at least know that we all understand this.
I mean,
Yeah.
I understand the practice of what you're saying here. I'm just not
think-
sure if I understand what the highest and best use of somebody's property is.
I think for these 4 residential districts, or primarily residential districts, for these interior lots, I think it is a reasonable regulation.
I agree with that, Joseph.
okay, and all right, like I said, I missed a lot. Okay, zoning permit, simple, in an interior lot. If the lot size is 4,500 square feet, it should only allow a single unit housing.
In this case, Jane, it has nothing to do with the
Okay,
lot size. It has to do with
okay.
the nature of the district.
Okay.
So the 4 districts that we would identify as primarily residential
Residential.
are the common residential district, that's the lots, that's the Rachel Drive area.
Yeah.
The Lake District, we obviously know what those are. The rural residential agricultural district and the Thompson Common Village District.
Okay.
Those are primarily residential, therefore, and this, a version of this is already adopted in the subdivision regulations for uses proposed on interior lots in new subdivisions, right? So this would make it consistent across both documents and would recognize that, to Mike's point, even though a property owner may have a personal interest in monetizing, developing a property on an interior lot in a more intensive fashion, clearly what we saw is that that is going to engender a lot of controversy in those neighborhoods. Because we already adopted something like this in another document, I am submitting this as a solution for also the zoning regulations. But it is not directly tied to lot size. You could have a 20-acre interior lot in the RRAD. With this provision, you could not propose a multifamily development on that interior lot.
Okay, thank you, Tara.
Okay,
Wait a minute, back up on that one, Tara.
yeah.
You can propose it, but you're not gonna, it doesn't come under zoning permit simple.
So it would be not, yeah, you can propose anything always, but it would not be permitted.
Well, it would be
See?
permitted under special permit if, well, RRAD does not allow multi-housing or does? I'd have to look.
Rural Residential Agricultural District does allow multifamily housing as a special permit use. But what this provision would say, would put in effect, would be that a multifamily development could only be permitted on a frontage lot, not on an interior lot.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't, so I mean, if it's just not a simple permit, so Cindy can't sign off on it, it come to us as a special permit, and if
Which
we
would still
found it,
not be allowed.
That's not, yeah, that's not what the proposal. What the proposal
Oh.
is anything that falls into the two categories that require commission action would, under this proposal, not be permitted at all on an interior lot in those 4 primarily residential districts.
I can tell you what the workaround for that would be, because I can already hear that what Mike's objection is. You would, if you were, let's go back to that hypothetical of a 20-acre lot, interior lot in the RRAD. You would have to build a private road. So then you would be creating new private road frontage. That's how you would get around that.
Okay, so that would take care of that problem with somebody who
No.
owns a lot of acreage.
Why wouldn't you just call that a driveway? If you're talking private road, are you talking all these regulations that go along with a private road?
That would be correct.
And that would be expensive.
It would be expensive. Although not as expensive as a public road.
No, for sure. But I don't know, I think
Yeah, I mean,
there's
in light
much
of,
more discussion on this.
yeah, I kind of agree with that too, especially in light of what we went through with Rachel Drive. I think we need a lot more discussion on this.
So I'm just gonna put a pin in this one. And I think it's Ray, I see your raised hand. Can you speak? Can you take yourself off mute?
Okay, I think finally got on here. I don't know what happened with the difference on this. But from what I'm hearing, a private road wouldn't work if you put a driveway in on our lots on a driveway is only 2. So if somebody's got 20 acres and they call it a driveway, there's only on a shared driveway is only 2 lots.
3.
So, you know,
Three
there's a
lots.
lot of,
Right.
well, 3 lots. It used to be 2, sorry. I tried getting it back to 2, but that's besides, and a couple things other things I heard, everybody's going by what they perceive. And when we went to this thing last Friday, you got to watch out with people, the way they perceive on what the regulations say, because one person will perceive it one way and somebody else will perceive something differently. So, you know, everything, you know, we really have to dot our I's and cross our T's to cover our keystones, I will say.
No, that's absolutely true, Ray. That's exactly why we do this. I mean, I do not expect, when this was a shorter discussion memo, I thought maybe we could get through it in one session. I do not expect we're going to get through this in one session. So we can really dive into this, or we can put a pin in this and come back to it and go on through the rest of the draft and see what else we want to agree with and go back to. Either way is fine with me. Now, Jane did say something that may give us an out here, or at least a better refinement. So let me think this through. Just gonna. In districts which are intended for primarily residential uses
Well, what I understand is they've given you this new,
and where
apparently.
the
in that case,
size
Wow.
of the interior lot
There's something else going on,
is,
which is understandable, you know, it's, so they kind of gave this new appointment to you unexpectedly, right? Yeah.
somebody's got some background noise. I can't tell who it is.
Jane,
Okay.
Jane, are you on the phone with somebody else, Jane?
Yeah, Susie, would you keep it down?
Sorry about that. I was on the phone. That was John Lanky. He's gonna try and get on in about 5 minutes. So,
Okay, very good.
okay.
Very good. We'll call it out when he comes in. All right, so in districts which are intended for primarily residential uses, CRD, LD, RRAD, TCVD, and where the size of the interior lot is less than, and I'm just gonna XXX. Because the issue of large lots in the RRAD, I think, is a legitimate one. So maybe that's a threshold that we want to look at.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna come down to the amount of acreage that they have on the interior on the RRAD.
So the question then becomes, what is that threshold? We certainly don't want it to be too small, right?
Whatever your,
Because that's,
it's whatever your zoning is.
Yeah,
so but if it's that, Mike, then we are right back to you can do anything on any interior lot, which, by the way, let me say, I personally have no objection to, right? What I'm responding to here with this suggestion is we are obviously going to get objections from abutters, right, in this case. And even, and Mike, I think it's fair to say, I see your hand, Ray, I'll get to you in a second. And Mike, I think it's fair to say that you tend to come down on the issue of anybody being able to do anything they want on their private property, right? But even you in this case said, I didn't necessarily agree with the fourplex in that neighborhood. So that means that's something that is triggering your concern as well.
But that was because of the frontage and the hill right there.
That is the legal reason that application was denied. You are 100% correct.
And that's why I didn't agree with the fourplex. Otherwise, I had no problem with it. But it was because of the siting of the entrance. Okay, in my opinion, if zoning allows it, we have to allow it. It's pretty simple. Just because people don't like it, and I'd be one of those also that may not like certain things, but I don't have the right to tell somebody else zoning allows this. I can't say a word about it. I really can't.
Yeah.
Neither
Sarah?
can any of yous. People move into this town because it's a quiet town. They came from the cities, they come from other places. It's a nice town. But they also do fail to look at the zoning regulations. They fail to look at possibilities of what can and cannot go on next door to them. And then when they find out what can and cannot go on next door to them, sometimes they have quite a fit. But that's something that should have been looked at prior to them buying the house.
can I say
Well,
something?
Ray had his hand up first,
okay.
Jane, and then you. I was
Okay.
keeping track.
Okay,
Okay, before the last zoning change and we had the districts, which what is called RRAD now is residential agricultural. It used to be 2 acres for a lot to build a house.
Well, it was split. It was
I
either
know, but hang on,
R40
let me-
or
let me
R80.
speak. I'm sorry, but let me speak.
Yep,
Then
okay,
it was
sorry.
dropped, then it was dropped down to 1 acre. And now you want to, it seems like people want to drop it down lower, which ain't right. And then to get back to what Mr. Kruger was saying, people moving into this town have to look at the regulations. What about the people that's lived in this town for years and years and we're squeezing people's properties together to turn this into the cities that they're moving from.
Okay.
I myself don't feel like that's right.
All right, so let me address your comments and then Jane can share hers.
Kira,
So-
before you do, I would
Yes,
just
Joe.
note that Mr. Lenke entered the meeting.
Yes, thank you. I did see it. I meant to call it out. So specific to what is now the RRAD, that was two different things. That was what used to be R40 and R80. And essentially it all became R40. And the rationale on that is not that anybody has to have 1 acre as opposed to 2 acres. It is that there was no physical compelling reason for the town to limit this, limit meaning force people to own larger amounts of property than they may or may not want to. And it was before you came on the commission, but we had a lot of discussion about it. We can show fairly conclusively that the large lot sizes, despite what people may believe, are not more conservation friendly. And we can also demonstrate quite conclusively that our per road mile density of parcels is not sufficient to provide enough tax revenues to fund the amount of infrastructure we already have, right? That can be demonstrated easily with math. I've done it in several places, and I can send that. I'm happy to send that to you.
But
May I?
Wait a minute, let me finish answering Ray's questions, and then I've got Jane, and then whoever else is in order.
Alvin,
Okay, so then Jane, then Alvin. There is no effort to try to make the lot sizes where there is no public utility support lower than the acre. The exception to that was the Lake District, which has a unique set of problems, which is why we had to go back and revisit it. But the acre minimum is tied to what is a reasonable standard for a lot size where you have to rely on private wells and septic for separation, right? It's a physically compelling reason to set it at a certain threshold. And you can have as large a property as you want or can afford. We're just saying we're not going to require you to own those large lots. The 4,500 square foot minimums are for areas that have access to public water and sewer. Again, if we know, yeah, go ahead.
4,500 square feet. When you guys had your meetings, I sat in on that, and I was on the citizen side. 4,500 square feet was for the way it was brought up was supposed to be for a single family dwelling. The guy that had Northeast Sand and Gravel had 20 acres in there, said he wanted to put in 20 houses. John Rice said, you guys just gave him the green light to put 60 houses in there, which he was 100%. And you guys let me speak in the middle of that application, which I can't believe I was able to speak. And I spoke up. If you look in the minutes, if it was put in there, I spoke up and said, I believe with John Rice, it's like a car salesman. They were supposed to put 20 houses on that 20 acres. This guy came in the other day and said, now we can put 60 houses in there. And that's exactly what John Rice said 3 years ago. And it's not right. And now he could put 60 duplexes in there the way things are going. And that's wrong. It should be a single family dwelling in that area where there's city sewer, not duplexes. And we don't have, there's nothing in there. You could put four unit apartments. You could put 6 on 4,500 square feet. That was put in there in haste, and it was never differentiated. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I understand that you feel strongly about this, and You are correct that a 4,500 square foot minimum lot is a 4,500 square foot minimum lot. Cut and dry, right? Those lot sizes are only proposed where there is public utility access. And I'll go back to the earlier point I made, which is that we do not have in the town of Thompson, we do not have enough parcel per road mile density to fund through property taxes the infrastructure that we already have. It is true that you don't want to cut up your outlying green spaces to an extensive level. I agree with that. I've said it repeatedly. But knowing that we do not have enough density in the town to support the infrastructure we already have, you have to look for solutions. And a solution which maps itself to the capacity of the physical community to absorb the density is to reduce the lot sizes where they have that utility access. And that 4,500 square feet is not random. There are 4,500 square foot lots in the downtown Mill Rehabilitation District, in the lots that have existed for over 100 years. They fit there perfectly well. It's just a relatively dense, and I say relatively dense because if you're actually talking about urban environments, they have R1 zoning in things like urban environments, meaning 1,000 square foot lots, right? Nobody's proposing that. We also have height limits of 3 stories, right? So there's never going to be any high-rise development. But we get a lot of conversation about how we need to build the grand list, bring in more business, which for Thompson, because we lack things like natural gas, are going to be smaller businesses. Those businesses cannot reasonably take a chance on Thompson if there is not enough customer density to support those enterprises. So while I understand that people may feel uncomfortable, right, with changes, again, that are perceived, those changes that were proposed were based on the historic profile of the Mill Village when it organically arose, before zoning even existed, right? People built lots close together. And
Well,
those make for dense, walkable neighborhoods.
When 4,500 square feet came in, that was brought in under the presumption it was single-family dwelling because we're pushing the low-income housing. And now
I
now we
would
have
disagree
people-
with that characterization.
Now
I think
people
I would
want
have
to
to
put
agree
in
with that.
duplexes, they want to put in quadruplexes on that 4,500 square feet because nothing was ever put in to characterize what was supposed to be on that 4,500 square feet. That was an oversight when it was rewritten, just in my opinion.
I do understand that you feel strongly
Okay,
about
can
this,
I-
Ray. Yeah,
can I-
yes, Jane,
can I-
it is your turn, Jane. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Number one, yes, I agree. We are here to uphold the regulations, the permits, everything else, but we are also here to consider the other citizens of this town that have already lived here for a great deal of time, hence the problem on Rachel Drive. 4,500 square feet, single family unit. The building that is coming into this town is going to literally sink this town. You're looking at one thing. You think you bring more people in, the town's going to have a bigger tax base, everything else. No, it's not, because we're going to get killed with what happens with the school. Business needs to be brought in. You give good points, Tara, as far as, well, the big businesses aren't going to come in. Nobody has done anything as long as I have lived here, which is 45 years, to bring in any sustaining business. Limiting what goes on in the rural districts with the 4,500 square feet, I am taking into consideration the rest of the people that live in this community. That's why I was elected, that live in this community that we also have to look out for, hence Rachel Drive. I would not want an apartment complex coming into my neighborhood. It is not an apartment neighborhood. It's a single dwelling household. There's an awful lot in our regulations that I feel that need to be changed, but you mark my words, all the housing that is coming in is going to sink us. The individuals in this town cannot afford any more taxes, and that is what is happening. And I wish I had known more before I voted for that horrible mess at the beginning of Buckley Hill Road. That is a big mistake, and all of us are responsible for that. That's
Okay.
all I have to say.
All right, and I believe Alvin has something to say, and then I'll try to address your concerns, Jane. Go ahead, Alvin.
Well, thank you. You know, we're all marching towards what I call urban development. As you know, this unfortunate situation where we have less than 4% business in this town, a healthy community is 15+ percentage business. We're a long way from that. I doubt if we'll ever get to that, because our founding fathers back in the 60s and 70s, when they were expanding Route 52, refused to have the proper ingress and egress to Thompson.
Bingo.
Now we're living with that nonsense. We will, with these small units, 1-acre lots everywhere, we're going to be just like, who knows, suburbia. Good
We're
God.
going to end up like Southbridge and Webster is what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yep.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Okay,
And
so
I watched it back in the 80s. We tried to get business brought in here, and the people that ran the town did not want it. We also went to the state to see about getting 395 to put in another exit and entrance. But because the ones that were running the town at the time voted no, so we could not get any business in. Now we are going to pay for it, and so are the citizens of this community. And that is why we also sit on this board. We've got to consider them. And that means that we've got to get these regulations right. And I don't want to see, I have heard that there is a developer that is looking at bringing in 150 more duplexes in this town. And then you bring in the children. We already have an enormous school budget that will escalate. We have got to get this right. And limiting things is the way it has to be done. I don't want to do anything. People should be allowed to do what they want on their own property. But we also have to consider the town as a whole and what it's going to do to this community. And it's not looking good the way it is now.
okay, so I hear your concerns, Jane. I will agree with you on one thing. Many of the things that we are trying to address here have nothing to do with anybody who is on this board, anybody who is currently in town leadership. They were choices that were made decades ago, and you are correct. We are living with those consequences now. What we can't do is what we can't do is change what happened 60 years ago.
No, and we have
What
to
we
make
can
it correct
do-
now. We have to make it correct now.
You are correct. And what I can tell you is that this is a math problem. And it is not correct to say that more residents will drive up taxes. It would be correct to say that adding new infrastructure, right? Somebody made the comment about things being suburbanized. That would drive up your taxes, right? And we've made some serious efforts to try to curtail things like new public roads, because that's really almost the only infrastructure that the town offers all of its citizens, right? Is road maintenance, right? In order to attract business that will fit with the physical characteristics of the town of Thompson, and by that I specifically mean we do not have natural gas, so we cannot get anything that you and I would identify as manufacturing and industry. It's not going to work, right? The kinds of businesses that will, with the conditions that we have in the town of Thompson, have a chance are those that are what I refer to as neighborhood scale, right? Storefront retail, hospitality, personal services, right? We've got no pharmacy, we've got no hardware store, we've got very little in the way of medical practice. But all of those things are only possible when you have a critical density of human beings to act as customers. So again, I would agree with you, Jane, that some choices that were made decades ago have made it harder for decades to do these things. But
I
the
agree with you.
suggestions that have been made, the changes that have been made are the kinds of changes that will foster that kind of growth. And it is very intentional to create that density primarily where it is supported. And I do hear, and I acknowledge and understand that for people who may have moved into a community at a certain point in its history, it would be uncomfortable to see change. Absolutely, I recognize it. That's why we have these conversations and we try to come to the reasonable compromise. But that compromise cannot include magical thinking that says if we ignore that we need to build the density, that somehow we're still going to be able to bring in and build that grand list on the commercial side. It's not possible. And another thing that we don't really address is, you know, people's needs in their lives change all the time, right? I may have been at the point in my life previously when I lived in an apartment, then I lived in a condo, now I live in this house on this 2-acre property. Someday when I'm older, maybe less physically able, I may want to downsize. Well, I will tell you that you can't downsize in the town of Thompson, right? So people either get stuck in houses that are too big and too difficult for them to maintain, or they're forced to move out of their community. And some of those downsizes are going to go into condos, some of them are going to go into apartments, some of them are going to go into smaller single-family units. The provisions that we have put in place are those that free up people to make choices more suitable to their lives at any given time. And some people may decide, you know what, I don't like the community anymore. I'm going to move to a different community. If you are a homeowner, that's the value of having the asset, is to decide, you know what, this is for me, this isn't for me, right? When we moved from our condo, it wasn't for us anymore. We left that community for something that was more suitable. That's how homeownership churns and keeps communities constantly growing, as opposed to what we have in Thompson, which is locked into aging in place with no good options. And I will address the school thing only the once, because it's really outside the jurisdiction of zoning. The school is undersubscribed. The reasons that the costs are so high per student is because they amortize poorly over a low density student population. There is a point,
I
there
agree.
is a point where you get enough students that it then becomes problematic and does add costs. This town is missing 900 students on that school campus from K to 12. 900 missing students to spread those costs out and make it more cost efficient.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue with you about the school system, because I know that school system, and that is why I got in politics 35 years ago, was because of the school. My concerns are for this community, for the people that already live in this community, and they also have to have their rights protected. And that is why I sit on this board. It's not just going along with the regulations that are put in place. I'm here to work for the people of this town. And right now, I am seeing nothing that is going to help the people that live in this town right now. The building that is coming forward in this town is not, you mark my words, it's not going to help the town. If somebody doesn't get on the stick and start figuring out how to bring business in here, and it can be done because we had a platform done up 30 years ago. that would bring business into this town. So nobody's looking at it. It's your scapegoat. And that's all I'm going to say on the subject.
I see Santos and Williams with their hands up.
I
Ray, I
think
don't know.
in that order, Tira.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure I understood, because there's been a lot of talk here. Was Ray's point just more in concern of the subdivision? And Ray, did you say it was 1 acre lots or was 4,500 square feet lots? That whatever that public meeting was. You just refresh what you said to me, please.
The public meeting that they had when I was sitting there on, as a citizen, it was brought up to 4,500 square feet, and it was the guy that owned the sand and gravel place. He had 20 acres. He wanted to put in 20 houses, and so John.
Yeah, so it was 1 acre. So you're saying 1 acre lots. It was 1 acre.
I actually called John Rice up on this a little while, 2-3 weeks ago, and he told me to go back through the minutes because he really didn't remember, which we know, what's going on, but I shouldn't have even brought his name up. A commission member brought up that, and he said that you guys gave him the right to put in 60 houses, although we only wanted to put in 20 there. So now, 60 houses on a 4,500 square feet could be put in there. And I'll tell you what, I remember like it was yesterday. It's a contractor. The contractor is no different than, he wants to make as much money as he can. And I backed him on what he said. I said, Mr. Rice, it's like a used car salesman. He's going to make as much money as he can. And he was right. And now the people that are buying this place are talking into, putting 50 houses in there. And even if you can put the 50 houses on 4,500 square feet, that should be single family dwellings, not duplexes on each one of them 4,500 square feet. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, so let's just talk about the square footage for a second. So I'm in our subdivision regulations.
Right. And we're not actually in subdivision. We're supposed to be talking on regular regulations, but I
realize that, but the subdivision references the regulations, right? And the subdivision it provides guidance on the lot size, right? So under this item that I'm on, I'll just read it. Each lot in a subdivision shall contain a net buildable area as defined in these regulations, equal to the minimum lot area for the zoning district in which it is located, which would be the 4,500 that we're currently talking about.
Correct. Yep.
In no case shall the requirement for net buildable area exceed 40,000 square feet. The commission may waive this requirement for a building in a polygon and other lot sizes and blah, 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 blah. So the way I read this is that we, as the commission, would be able to put a maximum net buildable area on a subdivision of 40,000 square feet, which is just shy of 1 acre. That's the way I read
I'm
this.
not sure I agree with that interpretation, Brian. Although maybe I'm not
Fine, so just
understanding
someone
you.
needs to explain it to me then.
So
Why
then-
would we have the second sentence if it didn't mean anything? And that second sentence
Sarah,
said,
can I have one more minute before you speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
It does not say what you could put a 6-family house the way it's written. You could put a 6-family house on 4,500 square feet.
Yes, you could.
That's not right. It should be a single family dwelling, because when it was spoken about at the planning and zoning meeting, they were talking single family dwellings.
I would have to,
That's
I
what it
would
was-
I would
that's
have
what
to
it
go
was-
back, Ray.
That was what it was intended for.
So I would
And
have to
now-
go back
now
and
we got
review that, Ray.
contractors- I got a contractor stopping in front of my house saying, boy, them regulations turned me into a multi-millionaire, and that's wrong.
So.
Can we?
Let's try to unpack some of this, because this is obviously going to take up a lot of our time tonight, and it's fine. We want to have a thorough discussion. There is nothing wrong with apartment buildings.
Oh,
There is nothing magical about single-family homes. We could drive all over this community and see single-family homes that are kept in conditions of blight. And we could equally find people who are living in rental situations, duplexes, whatever, where their yards are neat as a pin. There is nothing about either form of dwelling unit that implies a nice versus a not nice neighborhood. It is the person who lives in it, owns it, rents it, whatever. We know across the entire state of Connecticut that there are hundreds and thousands of missing dwelling units of all sizes, right? The state has been going through an acute housing crisis. And this doesn't even touch capital A affordable housing, right? Which a lot of people like to use as a boogeyman. This is just people who need to live places without having to commute 1,000,000 miles to get to a job, which takes money out of their pocket the further you have to go, right? It's giving people options for all points in their life. And right now in the town of Thompson, because it has leaned over decades so heavily towards single family owning only zoning, there is no downsize home option. There is no starter home option. There is no option for people who might not want to have huge yards to maintain, but all of these people exist in your community and in your region, right? And I will go back to the previous point that a constant thing that people come into our meetings, selectmen meetings, my office, EDC meetings, is how do we bring business? I cannot stress it enough. You will not bring the kind of business that is suitable to the physical characteristics of the town of Thompson if you do not increase your residential density. It is an ecosystem relationship. Businesses do not take risks on low density communities. That puts higher pressure, to Alvin's point, on the residents, right? We have 97% residential property taxes in the town of Thompson. I just verified this recently with the assessor on an unrelated issue. 97%. But we still don't have enough density within that residential construction to support the infrastructure that we have. These are problems that we have to solve in order to keep the town financially solvent. It will require that we have higher density in some neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods were intentionally chosen in the rewrite to be those supported by public utilities and to a lesser extent, the travel corridors of routes 12 and 131, but they have less utility support there, so it is a lesser standard there. Those things are all true, and there's no, and I'll say one more thing, and then I saw Ray had his hand up and then Jane. This notion of single family only zoning isn't technically illegal yet, but it's going to be. So you're just going to be in the position where you have to backtrack to something that we have the ability to get out in front of now to accommodate the reality, the fiscal reality of the community. Ray, and then Jane, and then I see Cindy just put her hand up.
Okay, the people that want to move into this community should look into the community the way it is. We should not have to change our community for people that have been living here for years and change the demographics of our town and make all these cluster housing. It is not right. But when this was brought up for the 4,500 square feet, that was a single family dwelling, the way it was brought up. That there was an oversight on any kind of number of units on that 4,500 square feet, and we have to correct that, in my opinion.
Okay. May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
Okay, number one, I disagree with you, Tira, as far as a business coming into this town because we don't have enough people that live here that would support the business. I do not agree with that. I've lived in many places. The reason that people want to come into Thompson is because it is a smaller community. We are right outside of Worcester. We've got Southbridge, we've got Sturbridge. We're an hour outside of Hartford, Boston, and Providence. Those are statistics that come into play when you want to bring business into this community. No one in the town has ever tried to bring business in here. All they've tried to do now, all that's trying to be done is more cluster housing. It is a mistake, period. It is a mistake. Saying that no business is going to come in if there's not enough people that live here. We live in an area where there's thousands and thousands of people. The beauty of Thompson is that it is primarily a residential community. It is not a dry town. It is not one that doesn't have things here, but we do not need to bring in cluster housing in order to bring business in. That's not right, Tira.
Terry went after everybody else speaks. Can I speak? Because I can't figure out how to put my hand up.
That's okay. Cindy was up next, and then you, and I see Chairman Perotti Brown put his hand up. So let's go in that order. Cindy, John, and Joe.
Just put Joe before me.
Okay, so we're spending a lot of time on repetitive pontification about what our community, your community means. I'm just a staff member. We are going to be addressing this issue of the 4,500 square feet further on down in our regulations through my suggestion. So I guess I suggest, I'm suggesting that we just hold off any more communication about the 4,500 square feet, and you can go down to see what I'm suggesting and see how that works in what everybody is feeling, many people are feeling on the board. So I'm finished.
Thanks, Cindy. Joe, then JBL.
Yeah, go ahead, John. I'm happy to take Cindy's suggestion.
All right, well, the whole thing behind the 4,500 square feet is that when we created the districts, because this town was wide open before we did it, and that was one of the reasons. So we felt, some of us felt, that like with Northeast Sand and Gravel, the gentleman originally was going to come in and do 20 units or whatever. I don't know where that 60 come from, or 50. That's a bunch of shit. But there was only supposed to be 20 because he wanted to make it like a senior 55 and over area, which was good because he had all the utilities there. And then the other, and trying to get small business in is that we figured if we start small, we will never get a big business in. Plus, I don't want a Target. I don't want Amazon or anything, because they can come in, they want all kinds of tax breaks, and they'd be here for 7 to 10 years and gone. But if we can get small mom and pop type things, that's what it's all about. And the other thing is this BS about we don't have natural gas coming in here. That's a bunch of bull. We can put in a propane tank farm, if you want to call it, that could feed the central district, that the people can get. And we have the railroad system to do it. So we're dancing around with all this stupid stuff. Let's just stick to what we need to do to get things right, like Jane said. But Everybody's got to get off that, oh, he's going to put 60 units in there. No, he does not have to put 60 units in it. We can say, no, you only can do 20 or for whatever reason. But that's my thought. We got a chance maybe to talk to like Spicer or Northeast Pro, or any one of those big propane companies. We got a gentleman that's on the committee, on the commission right now that used to work for propane distributors in Pennsylvania, whatever. We got the railroad system. Him and I sat one night for 2 hours out there on the railroad tracks down there off of Buckley Hill Road, and I explained everything to him. We have the asset to do this. Put in a propane to feed the town. We don't need natural gas. What's the big deal with propane? Propane's cheaper. But nobody wants to pay attention and look into it.
And
It's my piece.
yeah, thanks, John. And Tara, if I may, I just want to, I really appreciate, I do think there's some important conversation happening here. I would just ask us all to remember that while we may disagree with the mechanics of what is going to ensure growth and maintain what we all love about Thompson, that we are all on this commission with the intention of strengthening Thompson. So as we respond to one another's ideas, if we could just hold that in our minds as we're responding to people, I think that will be helpful, and I think is really important for what we're doing tonight.
Thank you, Joe. Ray, I see you put your hand back up.
Okay, I just got a response for Mr. Lenke about the guy with sand and gravel said, you know, he wanted to put the 20 houses, but the regulation at 4,500 square feet for that many acres opens it up to put 60 units in there. And I just wanted to point that out.
But it doesn't say we were going to let him do it. We said he come in with 20, we would have stuck to 20 and say, no, you can't put 40 or 50 or 60. You came in, this is one. But see, everybody's taking a little bit out of content.
John, if I could just suggest that that's an academic argument for this particular point. Ray is factually correct that with 4,500 square foot lot size minimums, the number of units that could be proposed would be higher. And I'll just say this about that. I don't actually think it's going to particularly satisfy Ray's concerns, but part of the reason that we recommend applicants for significant developments, you know, whether they be multifamily or large subdivisions or even medium-sized subdivisions or mixed use, whatever, we recommend they come to speak with staff first, is to identify in their applications things that they may even be legal, but we can say, you know what, the appetite this is going to be low. Why don't you look at this? So that by the time it gets to the commission, we really want to have helped an applicant get the highest quality possible application in front of you. And sometimes that may mean that an application has larger lot sizes than would be absolutely allowed. Sometimes it might be that there is a mix of lot sizes. But on the staff level, we're actually very sensitive to that because we do recognize that, again, this is a lot of change. It is probably not well understood by people who don't deal with it every day, like you as commissioners or we as staff. And we don't want things just because they're possible to be happening in a laissez-faire manner. And that's exactly why we really insist on, well, we can't force them to, but we really encourage strongly developers of any kind of size to bring their things into staff for discussion first. So like I say, I doubt that would completely put your fears at ease, Ray, because I do understand the nature of your objection. But all of this stuff is balancing, as Joe suggests, needs, and those needs, you know, at the at the development level are, how are we going to build this grand list? And I understand that Jane also disagrees with some of the assertions that I've made, but I can assure you that we work on these questions all the time.
I just want to, that's what the old owner wanted. When the new owner comes in, he's gonna fall under the grandfather of our regulations of the 4,500 square feet. So that brings me back to the, the used car salesman, and he's gonna be able to do whatever, as many as he wants, not the 20, because that's what the old guy said. He could put in, actually on that, I think he could actually do, I'm saying 60, he could actually probably put 80 houses in there. And what that brings in, and I hate to say it, especially with the education thing, because it doesn't come into the school, that brings in more special education, which is going to drive up our taxes. And unless, somebody buys that property and we go into what Mr. Lenke says with elderly housing, and but then you can't tell people they can't build places, because then you're limiting people for what they can do on their property to go to elderly housing. It's such a balancing act that it's going to take a lot more than tonight. And I know you said you wanted to, you had the 20th booked for our next meeting. If we do another subcommittee and we have that walkthrough on the 20th, I'm not sure if you.
I was going to actually, at the end of this, suggest maybe this coming Monday as well, because we have the option of 2 more before the June meeting, but let's hold that till the end. I see Cindy and I see Brian, and then maybe we can try to at least talk about one more topic.
Okay, just real quick, Ray, if you make the decision tonight to change that 4,500 and to increase it or whatever, that new owner of Northeast Sand and Gravel has not submitted an application. So when an application is submitted, they go under what is current in the regulations. So it would not be grandfathered to anything because he's not submitted the application. So I guess that's all.
Yes, thank you, Cindy. That's absolutely correct, because there was never an approved application on the prior property. If there was an approved special permit under the prior owner, the special permits run with the land, that would be what would be grandfathered, but there was never any actual application brought forward on that property.
That is correct.
But
Santos?
in that area, if it's in the regulations that it's 4,500 square feet, it don't matter if the application is there. Our regulations say 4,500 square feet for a building lot.
That is correct. The current
I'm
regulations allow.
I'm recommending tonight to change it, Ray.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I still think 4,500 square feet should be a single family, just my opinion, single family dwelling.
Santos, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah, I'll just make one final comment here. So even if that person wanted whatever, 60 multifamily homes there, I think the fire marshal would deny that, similar to what happened with the multifamily on the interior lot. So I think this whole pressure of, oh, we have to allow that. There's other outside influences that would also steer us and help us manage that situation. And then my final comment here is I think we need to move on.
I think we can come back to this.
Well,
I
my suggestion, Jane, is if you guys have another approach or written paragraph, I suggest that you bring that. We're doing a lot of talking and really just kind of going in circles here. So if you have a suggestion on any of the write-ups, then please do so. When it comes to where you would approve a multifamily housing. And the reason I'm saying multifamily and not including the 4,500 is because it seems like, and we haven't gotten to it yet, that there's a topic on 4,500 square feet, and they're two very distinct categories or topics that need to be separated. So that's that. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. All right, so can we move on to this very simple language
Please.
adjustment for the shared driveways provision? We're still in general provisions for all districts. Let's see, the way it currently reads is all developments consisting of 2 or more buildings or attached units, e.g. townhouses or professional office buildings, shall utilize shared driveways to provide access to their developments in order to limit curb cuts. Cindy's comment was, it was my understanding that we were going to align zoning shared driveway with the subdivision regulations. Somewhere in our 2020 regs, we had 5 shared driveways. Now the section does not relate to the number of shared driveways. Is it someplace else? My response, the limits on shared driveways in a subdivision are for 3 lots. We've actually already spoken about that tonight. No such limits are referred to in the zoning regulations because now we're talking about undivided lots, which I think might have been the source of Cindy's confusion. So my suggestion is to add, to refer specifically to an undivided lot in that section so that it would now read, all developments consisting of 2 or more buildings or attached units, for example, townhouses or professional office buildings in an undivided lot shall utilize shared driveways to provide access to their developments in order to limit curb cuts. Does that clarify for you, Cindy?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on that?
Are we just talking commercial property?
We're talking about an undivided lot with multiple buildings, which is why I use those particular examples because of those are the most common that you would see.
Okay, well, if I may. 1 acre zoning. You now have 2 ADU units put onto the property.
Yeah.
You say you have to share that driveway? Why can't you not have a curb cut to take out the ADUs on their separate usage?
Well,
And what is
that
the
would
problem
be-
of having curb cuts?
So curb cuts, excessive curb cuts in denser populated areas such as the downtown are less safe for pedestrians. The reason to not have an excess of driveways in the less dense areas is to reduce your overall pavement and impervious surface coverage. If you were to have 2 ADUs on your residential parcel, I would submit that it would really only make sense to have a shared driveway access, not 3 driveways coming in and out of your parcel.
I could see 2 driveways. I mean, because you have to put in a septic system. So you have to have.
You may or you may not have to put in an extra septic system for an
Well,
ADU, depending on
if you
NVDH
currently have a
requirements.
property that is a 3-bedroom house, that means you have a 395 system. And if you want to put in 2 ADUs, it doesn't fit onto your septic system. You would either have to enlarge the system or put in separate ones, which may or may not be conducive to having a shared driveway.
So you are correct that NDDH, in a situation where private septic is required, would have to approve any plan to add bedroom capacity that is addressed in the regulations on ADUs. That is a somewhat separate topic from the driveways, which is about impervious surface and adding costs.
we already-
Dave, I see you've got your hand up.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
I'm sorry, but we already have our regulations for impervious
Surface.
percentage surface. We have our percentages already. So if you want to go and put another apron in somewhere, that's not going to subtract from the impervious or add to the impervious surface overall. And if you want to share a driveway, certain areas, I'll say my house alone, all right, I have 12 inches of loam, and then I have 6 feet of clay underneath that. You are going to have to put a paved driveway in, no matter what you do. And a curb cut alone is not going to make a difference. And I can only speak for my lot because I know my lot, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But a curb cut alone is not going to make or break a deal. And I think sharing driveways causes a lot of issues.
Dave.
Ah,
So
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So my comment on this is, without having this, the way I read it is we're actually limiting what they could do with their property, right? Because utilizing a shared driveway gives them the ability to maximize the utilization of that property, which is what I think we're all been speaking about for the past half hour. Does it not limit it?
I'm
I mean-
sorry.
By doing this, we open up the development of that property to what the property owner wants to do with his property by allowing the shared driveways. If you don't have this and you're limited to curb cuts, you're limited to what you can do for building within that property.
Yes, I believe I understand you, and yes, I agree with the principle of what you're saying.
So this actually gives them the ability to use their property for what they want, not limited to only being able to use curb cuts, right? So shared driveways opens it up for them. That's how I read it.
and if they
Right.
wish to use a shared driveway, they may. But if they don't want to, you're prohibiting them from putting in a different one. Or another one, I should say.
So I will also mention that the utilization of shared driveways would be, and let me preface this by saying, I don't understand the MS4 permit as well as some other people, but I do know that, again, the utilizing shared driveways, which reduces the amount of pavement, reduces the amount of runoff from impervious surface, is a preferred standard of construction under the MS4 permit, of which Thompson is a permittee. Ray, I see your hand up.
I just want to say, I hate to bring this up, but I think it all depends on what district you're in too. Because if you're in a district, the RRAD, it should, this should be different than, down in the downtown district, for putting in curb cuts and all of that. It's totally different in what part of town you're in.
Actually, I'm not sure that that is the case here. Now, let's look as an example, because this just recently came up, of course, is Dr. Sharma's proposal. That's a long shared driveway in the RRAD. If he had to make a curb cut for every one of those units in an undivided lot, that'd be a ton of pavement and would render that whole thing impossible. The MS4, and again, I understand the MS4 less well than J&D, who handles it for the town, and probably less well than Kelly and DPW. But from what I do understand about it, that's about preventing that runoff from buildings, driveways, roads, from getting into our waterways. And the more of those curb cuts, the more of those paved areas you have, the more that escalates that runoff. And that is why it's a preferred standard.
It's not one size fits all, though.
So Mike, let me ask you this. Do you have a suggestion on this item?
Yeah, let the people put the driveways where they want. I use my house as an example, okay? If I was to have to use a shared driveway, I would have to put in over 100 foot of driveway to put an ADU unit in. Whereas if I just take it off the road, maximum maybe 50 feet I'd be putting in instead. Which one's a better deal? 100 foot of pavement or 50 foot of pavement? Because my house is situated on the right-hand side of my lot, more or less. So I would have to go to the left to put in these ADUs. And I'd have to put in over 100 foot of driveway to do it. compared to coming off the road of maybe 40, 50, 60 feet at the most. I'd be undermining the use of the property, because then I'd be taking out my front yard with a driveway. Plus the fact that your runoff and everything else, or I should say, impervious surface is doubled. So that's why I say not every situation fits the bill. So to answer your question, I say let the people put the driveways where they want. If it beats the ratio of pervial to impervial, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead, Ray. Ray, go ahead. And then Dave.
Is that me? Ray, you going? Looks like you're muted.
I wonder if he lost his connectivity again. Maybe he froze. You go for now, Dave, and then when Ray gets back in, we'll go back to Ray.
All right, fair enough. Cindy, just a quick question. I mean, in this proposal, all we're writing is in an undivided lot. How, I mean, you know, since the regulation, since this is an existing regulation, what's your feedback or what's your input on speaking with people or input from developers, or, you know, what's been said? Because this has been in effect for
5 years.
5, yeah.
4 years. 4 years.
You got any comments, Cindy? I mean, we're adding 3 words here to an existing thing.
2 more buildings statute. Not really, you know, people come, they read the regulations, they come with plans. If it's done by an engineer, the engineer knows what they have to do. So no, I haven't seen any issues with it. And anything that I've approved.
So we're back to the original point, which I believe Cindy and I both agreed on, which is that adding those 4 words clarifies the item itself.
Right, because as your response in here is the limit on the shared driveways is for a subdivision lot, but and I don't want to delay this because we spent a lot of time on all of this, but when we first did the regulations, didn't this regulation shared driveways say that you could have 5 shared driveways?
It did, but we changed it last time because it was in conflict with the subdivision regulations.
So then why aren't we doing, why aren't you, I guess that was my question then, is why aren't you putting in? Okay, no, I hear you. All right, I get it. Okay, no question.
Yeah, so it's clarifying that this is only applicable to an undivided lot.
Right. Yes, I see that now. Yes, I get it. Okay. I'm with you. But no, we haven't had any real issues with that. Tara, do you think that I brought anything to you that we've had issues on here? Okay.
No, if anything, I think the ability to have shared drives on undivided lots has given us better quality applications.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. So I'm just, you know, we're adding 4 words to an existing regulation. That's my point.
Again, but not one size fits all. I would have to put in, like I said, 100 feet of driveway to put a unit in instead of 40 feet. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't think that
if they want to have the option to put in 3 shared, 3 units off one driveway, all well and good. But if they also have the opportunity to take it off the road directly, that's good too.
So we're not saying that they have to do shared driveways.
You are.
That is
Yes,
how
you
it's
are.
phrased. That's what Mike's objection is.
That's how it is
All
phrased.
developments consisting of attached driveway shall utilize shared driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay. Okay, yeah,
Oh, did I lose you? Oh, no.
No, you're there. We've got you.
Okay,
okay.
my screen downsized. I have to get out the magnifying glass to read this now. Uh-oh. So anyways, that's my objection.
Okay.
If they want to use it, but it should not be in there. You are stopping people from, again.
I agree with
utilizing
Mike
the-
on this one. Let them put them where they want them.
And if they want to share a driveway, go for it.
Yep.
There's a time and place for everything, and when we started talking about the shared driveways, we were talking about up off of Route 200 there, were we not? Oh,
Well, we've had several things that have
yeah, we
utilized
had,
shared
but
driveways.
basically it started out with the restaurant up there. Can't think of the name of it.
You had the guy on Ravenel Road.
I don't know, but anyways,
So why don't you just take out shall and say may utilize shared driveways?
May is optional, okay.
I suppose that I am fine with that.
Yep, May is good.
Okay.
May, so when we say May, it's May up to 3, correct?
It's may on an undivided lot whenever.
Okay. So that does not restrict somebody from doing a driveway off the road.
It does not.
Okay.
Welcome to suburban pavement. Okay, so I'm going to accept those changes based on this feedback. Oh, I thought I did. There we go. Okay. Moving on. So now this is one where I was trying to respond to a question that Cindy brought to me, and it appears that I may not have actually addressed her concern. So this is one we are probably going to have to talk about mostly through Cindy and her needs. So this would be, again, still in general provisions, a new section, change of use, all districts. And I'll read what I propose, and then I'll go back and address Cindy's comments. So what I proposed was, for applications proposing a change of use, the following standards for levels of review shall apply. 1, where the proposed use is less intensive than the existing approved use, the ZEO shall have the discretion to approve the change of use. 2, where the proposed use is more intensive than the existing approved use, the level of review for the more intensive use shall apply. 3, a use shall be determined by the ZEO to be less or more intensive based on the table of uses for the underlying district. Example, if the existing approved use is a special permit activity according to the table of uses, but the change of use would require either a zoning permit, simple, or a site plan review by the commission, then it is less intensive, and the ZEO may exercise discretion to approve the change. If the existing proposed use is a zoning permit, simple activity, but the change of use would require either a site plan review by the commission or a special permit, then it is more intensive, and the higher level of review shall be required. 4, if the ZEO cannot determine whether the proposed use is less or more intensive than the existing approved use based on the table of uses for the given district, then the ZEO shall consult with the commission to determine the appropriate level of review. Now, I was answering what I thought Cindy's question was, but perhaps I did not. So I'll just go back and look at her comments. She thought this language was convoluted. She asks a hypothetical question: does the approval of change of use require a zoning permit? If yes, then the use chart presently states what type of permit is required. ZEO is looking for discretion on what to require under Article 4, 275, 4.4, zoning permit simple and zoning permit, and B, zoning permit with site plan review by commission. I am not suggesting to change any requirement of a special permit. Again, I'm not entirely sure I understood what her comment was here, but I think that items 3 and 4 address that question. But since this is mainly a new section that was written to respond to Cindy's needs, I will let her take that.
Okay,
where she
so
wants.
So the bottom line is I think it's too much. It's too much wording here. So I already know by the table of uses what you need is a zoning permit, special permit, and site plan review. And then you have the existing and you have the new and you have, further over. So I already know that. What I don't know, and I'll give you an example now that it just happened in the last 2 weeks. Let's go back to Monte Blanc, the restaurant at 193, Mont Bianco. So remember I told you before that I said, yeah, you can open it up because it was a restaurant, is a non-conforming use in a resident, in RRAD. Now I've got somebody that is going to go in there and he wants to do a grocery store. And he told me rudely on the phone that I don't need any permits to do anything because this was a business before. And I said, yeah, you need a zoning permit because you're changing the use. And I'm going to have a lot of trouble with this person. Because he said he was going to have his lawyer call me, which his lawyer didn't. So my concern is more on the non-conforming uses and if it changes. I think all this other stuff is unnecessary because it's already covered.
Right.
In the current regulations.
So, and I think we talked about this at the office, and maybe what I'm about to say is not what we said, but I feel like it is. I thought what we determined in that conversation is that if the use is either the suggested use is non-conforming, or maybe even more correctly stated, not specifically addressed in the table of uses, then it's always a special permit activity because we have that provision in all of our tables of uses that essentially you can propose whatever you want, but it has to be a special permit so that the commission can determine if the use is consistent with the intent of the district. Isn't that where we landed the other day?
I don't even
Well-
think I brought this one up to you. What I just said.
You definitely brought something up about it.
Okay, so now what we're saying is that he needs a special permit if he wants to put a grocery store, and then you have to say no to it because businesses are not allowed in RRAD. He is just changing a business use.
So I would say that falls under what we always call the safety valve language, right? That he would come in with a special permit for that change of use because it isn't addressed in any way in the table of uses, but he could make the case to the commission that it is sufficiently consistent with the intent of the district and also utilizing a previous commercial space. That's my inclination. Now,
Well, I don't think
disagree. I don't know.
I don't think it's consistent with the intent of the district because the intent of the district is rural agricultural. But it's not, but there was a business there. So if you're saying that his argument with the zoning commission would be, well, there was a business and what I'm suggesting is less intensive. And so give me my special permit under our catch-all. Yeah, it's still too confusing. And I think a lawyer would just look at me and say, what are you, crazy?
Alvin, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, indeed. I would approve adding section F 2, 3, and 4. I think it's a good idea.
No,
As presented, Alvin, or you have some changes here. I'm just trying to provide clarity for Cindy when people come on existing properties that they want to change the way they're using it. And again, I was answering apparently a different question than she was asking, so.
Hey, Terry, if I could have a moment, please.
Yeah, go ahead, JBL.
I hate to be a bearer of bad news, but there used to be a grocery store in that building where the Monte Blanco was.
It doesn't make any difference, John. It turned into a restaurant, so now it's a restaurant. It was used as a restaurant. It has to be the last use. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Although
Okay.
to JBL's
I'm not-
point, I think we've used that very
You got-
rationale on some
what you
other
got-
properties.
Do what you gotta do. But did you ever think of looking back, grandfather, that was an original
No.
business back then?
No, because it was a restaurant.
No, it was a
The
restaurant.
last use
You
was.
got it. Do what
Okay.
you gotta do.
Okay. Okay, I just don't think any of all this stuff is necessary. It's just because it explains what the CEO is supposed to do. I think it just confuses it even more, so.
Well,
you guys-
wouldn't he have to come, wouldn't he have to come before the commission to get the special permit?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
so any changes that are to be made, existing businesses, whatever, should come before the commission. That solves your problem, Cindy. It should come before the commission.
Well,
I don't think that's actually what she's suggesting in all cases.
yeah, if it has to come before the commission for a special permit, well, that use is not permitted in that district.
But I'm just taking the onus off of your table if it comes before the commission. It's off
Right.
it's off your table.
Yeah.
And the
see.
commission could vote on it, which I have no problem with. When
Yeah.
something like that type of change is being done, I believe it should come before the commission.
Because he had a fit when I told him he had to come in to see me. Can you imagine what's gonna happen when I tell him he has to have a special permit?
Hey, you know what? That's the way it floats. He wants a
yeah, that
special
is.
permit.
And-
It comes before the commission.
Yeah, and I should be boring people with all those.
Oh, no,
nitty-gritty.
because you've already got enough on your work plate.
Yeah, so I just don't think, and if you want to put a hold on this, and for me to look at it's the area of, I think I made the it does not, nothing addresses non-conforming uses in districts, so, yeah,
Maybe we should put this one on hold too, because this
Yeah.
could be a long conversation.
yeah. Let me put some
Ray,
more
I
time.
see your hand up while I'm dropping a note in here.
I think we should just, table this for now because it's going to require more discussion.
Okay, I'm finished.
Ray, are you still there? Did we lose you again?
No, I don't know what happened there, but I came in through half of this or whatever. But Mr. Lenke's got it right though. That place was a grocery store 10 times longer than it was a restaurant. So I would say that's more of as a non-conforming lot, that would be more, should be put under that. And I'm not sure how I wasn't in on when they were turning in for the regulation part of it. But I guess that's more of a special permit thing. Just we just let a company come in on the DNR tire, which the cement block place there, go to a automotive car dealership, if you may. That wouldn't be no different than bringing this back to what it was years ago.
Yeah, it is different because what that gentleman wants to do is that he's in a district that does allow it under special permit. This does not, your district, RRAD, does not allow any businesses. So my answer to you, Ray, that's the question for the attorney. I've never heard of a situation where something was a grocery store, turned into a restaurant, and now he wants to do a grocery store. I've never heard in non-conforming. I've never heard that in all my years of being in zoning. So that would be a question for the attorney, and that's what I would ask the attorney.
Yep.
So we'll,
But there is, right down the road, you have, and it's RRAD, you have Lincoln's Machine Shop. You
they're all
have, excuse
they're all
me?
non-conforming. They're all non-conforming. were
Right, so
there
you
for
would think
years.
that this should be non-conforming to it, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, it is.
Okay, your chart says when it's change use existing. I mean, I can go into the book, but yeah, I think we spent too much time on this right now. I can
Right,
bring
yep,
it
yep.
back with something more simple.
We're definitely gonna need one more than one night
Yeah,
to
yeah.
straighten.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I always get well, it was a much shorter memo when I first wrote it. So I had high hopes when I first sent it out, but with the additional comments that come in, I think absolutely we're gonna need one more. So where are we leaving off here? We're leaving off with this change of use all districts. We've got 5 minutes left in the hour. Let's see, hold on. I'm gonna stop share for a second, guys. Hold on. Let me save my changes, save, and stop share. Okay, I think the easiest way to do this would be show of hands. Who would be available Monday evening? Use your raise hand function. And if you can't find it, say yes.
I'm not available Monday because Putnam is doing a very serious thing. There's a public hearing on it. They want to take planning and zoning, combine it, but just combine it into a zoning commission with 5 members. I have to check state statutes and stuff like that. I would like to come in and fight it. I don't mind if they combine planning and zoning commission. So we have a public hearing. I would like to be there as a member, a citizen of Putnam.
Okay, so I see 2 hands up that they are available on Monday. So I'm going to say that is not the majority of this group. So the next one would be a week from tonight. As Ray points out, that is in conflict with the site walk we've arranged for the 65 Main project, but that is optional. And Ray, we can get another site walk going down there. I would say this is
I'm going to be
more.
driving to Maryland on Thursday, a week from today. I need a few days vacation. So I won't be
I
available.
don't understand why, Cindy.
Yeah, why
Okay,
do you
and-
have to take a vacation, Cindy? Come on, really?
So I guess my next question is, why are we rushing this?
Well, we were
Yeah.
trying to meet, excuse me. We were trying to get stuff to the point where we could have the public hearing process in order to get it by September, because that was our target. I was literally just about to say, although we have September as a target, we don't necessarily have to hit September. I will say, I know that there will also likely be some ordinances coming up. And for practical purposes, now that we have a contractor who does these updates for us online, whatever the time frame is, we only want to do it once a year, and we want to do it at the same time as those ordinances. So we're only getting billed once. So having this come up to be accepted for public hearing, I think was the purpose, so that it could happen in July or August and then be passed and accepted by September. But we do have some wiggle room in time. The goal was to have a draft of changes to accept by public hearing at the June meeting, but we can go longer.
I think we should go longer, Tara.
Right.
I don't like having everything trying to rush into a certain time frame, because a lot of these issues need some heavy conversation about it. So I don't think we should be pushing it just to meet a time constraint.
Yeah, may I?
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, also, maybe instead of having an annual review or whatever, do it biannual, do it every 2 years. I mean, the major issues, we don't have really major issues.
Right.
Look, I would be fine with that too. What we established when we did the update was that we would look at them annually. If we want to make it every 2 years, I have no problem with that. It certainly takes a lot of the burden off of you guys as commissioners. I mean,
I have
we're
no
not,
problem with 2 years. I actually agree. I don't know why we have to do this every year.
You know, we can have our meetings and work on
Yep,
things throughout
yep.
the years.
I think one of the reasons why we decided 1 year, every year is because the regulations were so new and we were just picking out things as we went along with them. We were picking
Yeah.
out things that weren't right. And so I think the 2 years is fine. And, and again, when I made the statement, why are we rushing this? I know that Tara's changes have been in your hands. I just was not able to even look at any suggestions, and I've been keeping a folder for the past year, and I actually brought it all home and started working on it at 7 o'clock last night. So, so I'm kind of at fault too for not doing this ahead, giving it more time than just 4 hours last night.
No, I feel that it pushes us to make decisions quicker than many of us would like, because we really do have some deep discussions with some of this stuff, and having to decide on it and go within a time frame. I see 2 years as a better solution to this.
okay. Well, and that, I would suggest, and Mr. Chairman, you can tell me if you agree, if we are right now in the position where we are looking at potentially not doing this update this year, but doing it next year so that we can schedule more discussion meetings. I have no problem with that. I would suggest, because we have up to this point held that commitment of doing it annually, that I would, in the regular meeting, take that as a motion and a vote to establish that as a biennial as opposed to an annual.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that we forget this for this year. I'm saying after this,
Yeah.
we do it every 2 years.
Yeah.
There's something very important in here that I would like everybody's opinion on it. So
Okay.
Maybe
Well,
just
to that point, let's look at what the timeline of these ordinances are going to be, and if we feel that we can do it justice within that timeline. If not,
Right.
then we would hold out.
Okay, that's fair.
you know, we can submit the things that we agree upon, and then we can
right,
discuss.
right, that's true. Yeah.
I
All
was
right.
just
Sure.
gonna say the same thing, Mike. There are things that are gonna come up over the course of any year, and we can deal with them as they come along rather than trying to squash it all in and get it done within a certain time frame.
Dave, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Tara, I mean, I just, my only input is we committed to the citizens when we rewrote the regs
Mm.
and the heat that we took, we committed to the citizens of Thompson that we were gonna post it, we would review it every year, we'd solicit their input, look for them, we'd advertise it, we'd post it, we'd do all of the things that we committed to as part of this process yearly. So we committed to that, if we want to go to 2 years, I'm fine with that. We owe the citizens, we need to tell the citizens that we're changing and we're going
Yep.
to every 2 years.
That's why I'm suggesting if you decide to do that, that should be a motion and a vote at a public meeting.
Yeah,
Alvin, I see your hand up.
Yes, John, I agree with Dave wholeheartedly. Let's continue, please.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, continue, no doubt about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's suggesting that we're not going to continue this discussion. It's just what's the end time frame? I think is what this little kerfuffle was about just now. Ray, I see your hand up.
I just want to bring up on something that Mr. Perotti said, he brought up the ordinances. This is regulations, not ordinances that we're working on.
That's correct, but that was in response to
I
the
know it
point
was
that
a
I made
verbiage
earlier.
thing. It was a verbiage thing, and I just
No,
wanted to make sure.
no, it wasn't Ray. I'm sorry. It was as Tira was about to say, it was in response to her point that the contractors who update the ordinances are also updating our regulations. And if they
Okay.
do them at the same time, we only pay them once instead of paying them twice.
I wasn't throwing that out there as a dig. I just wanted to make sure that we're on on our regulations and not ordinances,
Right. Tira had mentioned that there are going to be some ordinances coming down. And if we can
We just want to mesh the timeframes.
Correct.
Okay, I just, when when that was thrown out there, it just kind of threw me off guard a little bit.
No worries, Ray. Dave, what do you got?
Just one last thing, Tara. So just, to the point I was trying to make before, what of these, is anything been brought to forward by the public, in solicitation of what they had for input, any of the topics that we're discussing, or is it all internal?
This is all internal so far. So what our
Okay.
process in the past few years, and this seems to have been what has worked best, is that these subcommittee meetings are where we decide the final form of what goes to the public. Now, if members of the public had happened to bring specific suggested changes, I would have incorporated that into this. And by specific changes, I mean, like the guy with the fences, right? Who came last
Yeah.
year and said, could you look at this, right? We don't happen to have had that this year. But this is back of house, and then it goes front of house, open for public comment. So that, and we generally put that up for at least a month. And that's one of the reasons why I think we were trying to hit that June timeframe. So we had at least a month to receive public comment that could then be addressed again in a comprehensive way. Because what does not work well is when we get our comments in the public meetings for the first time. That's too late, because it's almost impossible to make an intelligible amendment on the fly, right? Unless somebody happened to come in with specific language that we could review. So yeah, that's the process that we followed. We do a little bit of back of house work, then we present something that is like a semi-final draft, if you will, where we're still taking comment, mostly from the public, although commissioners could still comment at that time, and they consistently do, and that's fine. And then by the time it hits public hearing, we've got a real draft.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ray.
I just want to say, I could be wrong, but this is posted. If the public wanted to be sitting in on this meeting, there would have been a lot more than 10 participants, and they could be listening in and then come to our next meeting and voice their opinions on what happened here.
Yeah, this was legally posted. Absolutely.
Yep, I just wanted to bring that, when Mr. Poplawski said, about the, bringing it up to the public should be seeing this just like they see any other meeting, and they, if they were interested, they would, then their name would be on the participants. Is just I probably should have kept my mouth shut, but
No,
me.
it's fine,
Thank
Ray.
you,
No,
Ray.
this was 100% posted. Any member of the public could attend. It's just like any other meeting. We don't typically have public comment during these meetings because it's kind of like the sausage being made. We do a lot more of the circular talking. So it has been less helpful, but anytime I get a comment from the public, whether it's within the formal process or not, if it's in context of this, then yes, absolutely. But I do my best to incorporate it. When we have that draft, not only will I post it on the website with the invitation to comment, we'll post it on Facebook. I'll send it to Winnie. It's a public document, so you guys can certainly distribute it to anybody you think is interested in comment. I mean, we're not interested in excluding comment, but we just want those comments to come at a point where, again, those of us who sort of do this all the time have looked at it in context. Because without that context, you get we have to do a lot of educating on the fly. And that is hard to do and get the draft itself worked on in subcommittee. It's 10 past. What do you guys want to do?
Adjourn.
Second.
All right, guys, I'll work on the little bit we did get done. And I guess we're not going to have a meeting next week. So do you just want me to set up another doodle poll looking out a few weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, I will do that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All righty, have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Everyone, have a great night.
Good night, everyone.
All right,
Night, night.
thank you.